Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, we'll be learning how to make this stylish gown you see on your screen. And it's a combination of a gray fabric and black. The down part of this gown is a 180 flare, while the upper bodice is a basic bodice with shoulder dart. And it has this unique collar on the neckline area. It also has this beautiful structured sleeve and it is called a reversed petal sleeve. I hope this is something you would like to learn. If this is it, make sure to click on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure to put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So let's get right into the video. So these are the materials we're going to be using for this project, and here I have 3 yards of this fabric. It's a gray fabric, and then I also have about 1 yard of this fabric. I'll be using to combine the sleeve and also for the collar. So I'll set this aside and show us the measurement we'll be working with. We'll be working with the shoulder measurement. Here is 15, the bust 36, the waist 29, the underbust is 29 as well, and then the hip measurement, which is optional because we are making a flare, and here is 38 inches. And then you need the half length. This half length I have here is the front half length of my client because our front and back half length are not the same because we have our bust in front. So for her, her front half length is 17 inches and her back half length is 15 inches, which is a difference of 2. And then we also have the gown length. The full gown length is 45 inches. And then we have the nipple to nipple measurement, which is the distance from one bust to the other, and it is 8 inches. Okay, so to draft this gown, we're going to start with the flare. The flare is the biggest part, so whenever you are drafting, always make sure to start with the biggest part you're working with, the one that will consume more fabric, so that you can manage your fabric correctly. And to draft this flare, I'm going to be working with the waist measurement, which is 29 inches. I will divide 29 inches I will divide 29 inches by 3.14. This is a constant and is a standard. It works perfectly for a 180 flare. So for a 180 flare, it is 3.14 you divide the waist circumference with. So here, the waist circumference is 29. 29 divided by 3.14, that will give me 9.23, which is 9 inches. So here the radius is 9 inches. I'll write that down. And then the next thing I want to get is the length of the flare. Here I already mentioned that the full length of the gown is 45 inches. So, and that's from shoulder to the entire length. So I'm going to subtract her front half length from this 45 inches, which is going to leave us with 45 minus 17. That will leave me with 28 inches. So that means the length of the flare is 28 inches. So I'm still going to need my hemming allowance and the joining allowance to the waistline. So I'll need 1.5 for that. So that's plus 1.5. So now I'm going to have 9 inches, which is the radius, 28 inches, which is the actual length of the flare, and 1.5, which is for my allowances. So that's going to give me a total of, so that's a total of 38.5. So to fold the flare, I will need 38.5. So let's write this down, 38.5. So now let me show us how to fold our flare. To fold our fabric, this is the salvage of my fabric and the other end is the salvage. So now this is the entire length of my fabric. So from this end here, I'm going to measure 38.5. Can you see? So here is my 38.5. So at this point, I'll hold this point and then fold it. Now you can see this is 38.5. I'm folding it now this way. You see? So you can see I have 38.5 in two places. That's on fold. So now we'll place this on our table so that we can fold it on bias in a triangular shape. So I'll place this on the table, taking note that I have folded it into two. So I have 38.5 in two places. So you can see my 38.5. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to fold it. You can see this part is folded. So I'm going to pick this part that is not folded and place it over like this. Can you see? I'm forming a triangle shape. So I'll place it over like this. So this is where my 38.5 ends. So I'm just going to confirm it so that we can see. So if in case you have any, if you fold it and it shifts, all you need to do is to rearrange it. Can you see that I have exactly my 38.5? So this is the part that is under. So I'm just going to place this one on top of it like this now, cover it up. So it's folded into four in a triangular shape. So I'm just going to arrange my fabric. So I folded my fabric and see that this and then this one is folded into two, so I have four folds. So now the next thing I'm going to do, from the apex here, that's from the highest point here, I'm going to mark that radius we got. Remember, we got a radius of 9 inches. So I'll mark 9 inches, placing my tape from here. Mark 9 inches, 9 inches, 9 inches round like this. Okay, so now we have our radius. So the next thing now we want to do is to mark the length of the flare. There are two ways you can do that. You can decide to still place your tape from the apex here and mark on 38.5. That's at the end of the entire length you folded, which is 38.5. Or you can decide to do this. You use the length of the flare, which is 28 inches plus 1.5. That's for the hemming allowance and joining allowance. That will give you a total of 29.5. So if you place your tape from here and mark on 29.5, it will still stop exactly where that 38.5 will stop. So now placing my tape from the tip here, you can see that this is still 39.5. So this is just doing the same thing in two different ways. Okay, so I'm just going to place my tape still at the apex here and mark on 38.5. So you can see this is what my flare looks like. So if I place my tape from here, you can see that it's 29.5, which is going to be the actual length of the flare. It is that simple. So I'll bring in my scissors and cut it out. Okay, all right. So now we have our flare. So now there's something I want to show us here. So I'm going to measure what I have here. Can you see that I have about 7 3/4? Remember, I told us that my client's waist measurement is 29 inches. So here I have 7 3/4 and we have four folds. This is one, two, and then these two are folded into two. So that means if I have 7 3/4, which is 7.75, when you multiply 7.75 times 4, that will give me 31 inches. So can you see that I have 31 inches and the actual waist measurement is 29 inches. So meaning I have my zip allowance of 1 inch on both sides, which is 2 inches. So usually when working with this formula, you really do not need to add zip allowance. It will always find a way to give you your zip allowance. It works perfectly. But to be very sure, when you finish marking your radius, you can just go ahead and confirm it to be sure that you have your zip allowance. In this case, you can see that I have 31 inches, which gives me a zip allowance of 2 inches, 1 inch on the left and 1 inch on the right. I hope we understand that. So this is our flare. And see, this is what our flare looks like. It's a half circle. So I'm going to set this aside so that we can draft the upper body. So to draft the upper bodies, I'm going ahead to fold my fabric into two. And to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I'm going to use the biggest circumference of the upper bodies, which is the bust, and that's 36. 36 divided by 4, that will give me 9 inches. 9 plus 3 inches. This is so that when I do my dart intake, I'll be okay. So I'm just going to do 9 plus 3 inches. You can do 9 plus 2, whichever one you want to. I will cut out my excess. So for me, I'm doing 9 plus 3 so that when I'm done with my dart intake, I can cut out my excess. So here I have 12 inches folded. So first I'm going to draw the starting line, which is the shoulder line. So from the shoulder line, I'll mark the chest line. So placing my tape from here, I'll mark the chest line. And to get the chest line, you divide the bust circumference by 6 plus 2.5. And for my client is 8.5. And then still on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark the nipple point, which is 11 inches. The next thing I'm going to mark is the half length. And a half length is 17. So plus half inch for joining it to the down part. So that will give me 17.5. So I'll straighten my lines out. Now we have the chest line, the bust line, and then the waist line. So here on the shoulder line, I'm going to enter half of the shoulder measurement. That's the shoulder divided by 2 is 7.5. So plus half inch for joining the sleeve. So that's 8 inches. And then still on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark the neck width of 3 inches. So here where I have the shoulder measurement, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. Okay, so I'm drawing my shoulder slant. You can see we now have our front shoulder slant. So here on the chest line, I'm going to enter half of the shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches that I have here. Half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch, okay? And that's 8 inches. I'll mark it here. And then I'll connect it like this. So now this is our front armhole line. So I'll get the midpoint of this front armhole by folding my tape into two like this. And then I'll go in by 3/4 of an inch. I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip here. And then I will mark quarter of the bust measurement here on the chest line. This is to curve the armhole this way. I'll curve it and stop exactly at this point. So this is our front armhole. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark the neck depth. I'm using a neck width and a neck depth of 3 inches. So I'll also curve it like this. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to enter the nipple to nipple measurement. And the nipple to nipple of my client is 8 inches. 8 divided by 2, that's 4. So I'll add half inch to that measurement, and that will be 4.5. I'll mark it this on the waistline as well. I'll connect using my straight ruler. On this bust point line, I'll come down by 1 inch. And then here on the waistline, I'm going to mark a dart intake of 3/4 on this side and 3/4 on this side. So that will be a total of 1.5. You can do half inch depending on how you want the waist to be tight. For me, I'm using 3/4 here and 3/4 here. So that's a total of 1.5. So I'll connect it to this 1 inch mark I have here. Okay, so now this is our dart intake. So now I'll come here to the waistline and to the bust line and enter quarter of the bust measurement, which is 9 inches. Plus my sewing allowance, I'm adding 2 inches. And then here on the waistline, quarter of the waist measurement is 7 1/4. I have a dart intake here of 1.5. I'll replace that 1.5, and then I will add my sewing allowance of 2 inches also. So I'll connect it here. So on this chest line, you can see I've already entered the bust measurement here on the chest line, which is also 9 inches. I will add 2 inches as well. So now the next thing we want to do, I want to have a dart. I want to have a just because I'm making a basic bodice with shoulder darts. Okay. So first I'll get the midpoint of this point of this line I have here. That's from the neck tip to the from the width of the neckline to the shoulder tip. And here I have 5 inches. The midpoint is 2.5. This midpoint, I'll connect it to this part here. I just want to have a style line running, that's a dart going all the way to the waistline. So now this is what I'm going to do because I'm going to cut this line open. I'm going to come here now because I'll have to stitch them together with half inch on this side, half inch on this side. So I'll come here and add that half inch onto this side. That means I'm going to add 1 inch. I will also come here too and add the same 1 inch. I will add the same 1 inch here. So you can see that our armhole line has shifted. This is because I'm drafting on my fabric. So if you are drafting on your pattern paper, all you need to do is cut it open and then add your half inch on your part that's on your fabric, half inch on this side, half inch on this side. Okay, so I haven't added back this 1 inch to this side so that I don't have any shortage when I'm done. The next thing I'm going to do is take away the difference between the front and back, which is 2 inches. Remember I said that the back half length is 15 inches. So I'll come up here by 2 inches at the side here, and then I'll just connect it to this place. You see, I'm connecting it to the first dart leg. So I'll bring in my scissors and cut. So we'll start with cutting our neckline. So this is the armhole now I'm cutting on. I'm not cutting on this because I'll be cutting this line open. So this is it now. Let me explain this part. I'm going to be joining this side piece to the center. Remember that when we measured the neck from the neck width to the shoulder tip here, I had 5 inches. Can you see? Now I have 6 inches. So by the time I join them together with half inch on both sides, I'm going to be left with my 5 inches. So this line is just going to run all the way down. It's just in basic bodies, but I want to have the that running all the way to the shoulder line. So this is it. So now we're going to place this aside and cut the back. So here I folded my fabric for the back, and the width of my fabric, remember I said the bust circumference divided by 4 is 9 inches. So plus 2 inches, that's 11, plus my zip allowance, so that's about 13 inches. So from this folded part, I will come in by 1 inch. This is for my zip or for the zip allowance. So I'm going to mark this line. Okay. So this was the zip allowance. And next I'm going to mark the back half length. And the back half length, remember I said is 15 inches. So I'll mark 15.5 because I need half inch to join it to the down part. So I'm marking on 15.5. So I'm going to connect also. Next, I'm going to mark the chest line. Already we know that the chest line is 8.5. So I'll mark 8.5. So for the back, we don't need bust point line. All we need is just the chest line and the waist line. So here on the shoulder, I'm going to mark half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining the sleeve. Take note of where I'm placing my tape. I'm placing it away from the zip allowance. So and that's 8 inches here. I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. And then I'll mark the neck width The neck width is the same 3 inches like I did for the front. So I'll connect it like this. So having done that, here on the chest line, I'm also going to mark the shoulder measurement here on the chest line. And then I'll go ahead and connect it like this. And see? So next I'll get the midpoint of this line. This is the armhole line now. I'll get the midpoint by folding my tape into two, placing my tape from the shoulder slant. I got the midpoint. And then I'll go in by half of an inch. This is for the back, half inch. For the front, we use 3/4 inch. So for the back, half inch, I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip like this. And then here, I'll come here to the chest line and enter quarter of the bust measurement, which is 9 inches. And then I'll curve the armhole to meet this point. So this is now uh, back armhole. So I'll go ahead and enter all the other measurements. So already here we have the bust measurement divided by 4, which is 9, so plus 2 inches. And then here on the waist, I'm going to mark the waist. Then first of all, here on the waist, I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple measurement. That's half of it, which is 4. I'll mark that 4 here. I'm marking exactly on 4. I'm not adding half inch to it because it is the back. Unlike the front, I added half inch because we want to cut it open and join them back. So I'm marking the same 4 inches again here on the chest line. So I'll connect it like this, and then I'll mark a dart, or you can do the same 1.5 or half inch. So okay, you can do the same 3/4 inch or half inch on both sides. I will use the same 3/4 inch like I used for the back and for the front. So I'll mark 3/4 here and 3/4 here as well. So on this chest line, I will come down by half inch. So here's our chest line. I'll come down by 1/2 inch, and then I will zerize my dart at this point. You see? So these are dart, back dart. So I'll come here now and enter quarter of the waist measurement, which is 7 1/4. Then I have a dart intake of 1.5. I'll return back that 1.5, and then I'll add my sewing allowance of 2 inches. So that's it. So here at the center back, I will come in by half of an inch at this zipper, at this zip allowance, because we want to eliminate zipper bulge. So I'll mark half inch here, and then I'll slant it all the way to the shoulder line. Okay, so you can see. So remember I said my zip allowance is 1 inch. So by taking out half inch from this, when I'm sewing my zipper, I will still sew it on 1 inch. So that means it will come into the actual measurement to eliminate any form of zipper bulge at the back. This is because our back waistline is smaller than the front waistline. So you don't want to take chances, so that you can eliminate every kind of zipper bulge around there. So now we'll come to the neckline. I'm using a neck depth of half inch. I'm going to have a collar, so I'm using a neck depth of half inch. So I'll just curve it like this to meet this. So our back is really simple. We are done with the back. So we'll go ahead and cut it out. This is what our back looks like. So I'm going to notch this dart. This is so that we know where our dart is. Can you see? I'm just going to notch it. You want to make sure to notch it so you know where you are sewing your dart. And then I'll measure the length I have here. So the length I have here is 6.5. So when I'm sewing my dart, I know that I'll stop at 6.5. So this is it. It is out already. So I'm going to join my pieces, and then I'll show us how to make the collar, how we're going to get the collar. Okay, so as you can see, I've stitched my front pieces together and I ironed it open. This is what I have here on the right side, and this is what it looks like on the reverse side. And I've also gone ahead to stitch my darts. You see, done the same thing here. I remember I said that the front and back length are not the same, so by removing that 2 inches from the side here, so you can see that the two side, that's the back side and the front side, are equal, and you can see how it just comes down at the center front area. You see, so this is it. So we still have our front length, and you can see that we have our back length to give it that balanced look. So now it's time for us to create our collar. Okay, so we'll be stopping here for today in this video. In order not to make this video longer than necessary, in my next video I'm going to show us how to draft, cut and sew the collar and the sleeves part as well. So if you have learned something from this video, please make sure to like this video, share this video with your friends, and do not hesitate to subscribe. Subscription is free. It's your way of supporting my channel. This is just saying well done, that you have gained value. So please make sure to subscribe, share this video with your friends, like I say, and make sure you put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.